A Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate production. Love, Growth, and Freedom with Adrian Lim Duarte. A podcast that talks about the twists and turns of life and how things are intertwined by love, growth, and freedom. Powered by Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate.
Hey guys, welcome to Love, Growth, and Freedom with Adrian Duarte. I am glad that you're back here again, trying to listen on my third season. I am very grateful for your time and attention as you journey with me as we podcast these things that we think about, or the things that I think about, and just putting them out there. So if you want to hear more, you can follow me on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, and so many more, and YouTube as well, and Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate .com.ph. I have all my episodes there. If you want to check it out, you should go and see how these episodes line up the way you want it to go. On this third season, we have been talking about the questions that we have behind closed doors, on the way that we make sense of things. I know that we do have questions that we ask when we're all alone and vulnerable, and these are the things that I want to talk about on this third season. So we've been talking about comparing yourself to others, why we do it, why we compare our apples and our oranges to other people, and that why these comparisons are not something that we should always think about because it's always different for everybody and we're always in a different position in our lives, a different pace, different everything. And that we went and we got into where we are on a different path, different opportunities that were presented to us. And then we move on to the next one when we talk about self-worth, the idea that our self-worth is intrinsic. It comes from within. It's not something that should be dictated by other people. We are not supposed to be judging ourselves by what we do, what we have, and what we bring to the table, but who we are as people and how we commit to our relationships, and make this world a better place. So on this episode, we'll be talking about developing a healthy sense of self. This is kind of connected, or actually this is very connected to the idea of self-worth. With self-worth, we are told that who we are as people, we have inherent rights, we have things that is solely ours. We are deserving to be respected as good people or human beings as of that, and we have to be kinder to ourselves. We talked about self-compassion. On this fourth and in this episode would be talking about the healthy sense of self. Now, what is a healthy sense of self? A healthy sense of self is the way a person perceives his beliefs or her actions, her or his belief or actions, and values and traits, and the purpose in the world. So this is how we see ourselves. This is how we put ourselves in a pedestal and see that, okay, this is what we are, this is what we do. That's why it's connected to self-worth, because if we anchor our self-worth on the ideas of the outside world, then our sense of self is also easily shattered when we don't realize that we're not as good. That's why it happens to most of the people when they think that they're very, very good at something, and then they realize that the whole world is crazy and very competitive, and that they're not so great as they think they were, because they put their sense of self and self-worth on those expectations that the society and the people set upon us. So why is it important for us to have a very healthy sense of self? Well, if you have a very healthy sense of self, you will not be shattered. You will have an unwavering will, a fire to go on with your life and focus on the things that make you who you are and focus on the things that make you happy. So with this, you have to know your goals, your values, and ideals. And this is mostly equated to having a strong sense of self. When you know what you want to be, when you know what you want to do, and when you know where you want to be, and when you know who are the people that actually support you in the journey of life. So, yeah, we talked about why is it important. It's important because it grounds us to the truth of who we are and what we live for. You know, having a healthy and strong sense of self keeps us strong enough to face adversities better without leaving us to question our very purposes in life. So, my experience of a healthy sense of self is that I think I have a healthy sense of self. I think I have a perspective of myself na I allow myself to be human and I allow myself to make mistakes, and I'm not too harsh with myself, but I can be harsh. You know, I can be overly critical about my actions. I can be overly critical about the things that I do in my life and where I'm at. And unnecessary things that I do sometimes is to compare myself, my progress with others. And that's not right. That's not true. and that's not something that we want to do in the future. So with these episodes that I'm trying to do in this moment in time, we're talking about the healthy sense of self. I'd like to think I do because I know what I want to be, I know what I want to do, and I stick by it, and I have principles, and I'm always often, often grounded to the things that I want to do in my life. To give you an example, I've been working on a project, a goal in my life that I've been actually setting my foot upon there for at least 2, 3 years already, and I'm waiting for its fruition, and I'm hoping that it all goes well, goes smoothly. But if it doesn't, I think I have a backup plan. But manifesting it all the way, I'm thinking that I'm gonna make it. So with a healthy sense of self, you'd realize that whatever happens externally for you is not gonna affect how you see yourself. For example, if you are comfortable with your sexuality, like me, I'm a gay person and I'm comfortable with my sexuality. If people use this against me, I'm not gonna flinch. I'm not gonna be offended anymore. I'm not gonna be upset because I know for a fact that yes, I am gay and I'm proud of it. I'm happy about it. I've accepted myself for that and I'm standing by it. Whatever happens, I stand by that. And then whatever the people say about me will not affect how I view myself. It's not going to make me view myself in a lesser perspective because, well, I'm gay and they find it wrong, and that's in their perspective. That's not in mine. I've worked on my sense of self for a very very long time. I've been working on that very meticulously because again, I'm overly critical. So whenever I find myself, questioning my motives, questioning my life, and questioning my purpose in life, I try to go back to the reasons why I do a lot of these things. Why I do my podcasting, why I do my content creation, why I do my job as a teacher. It's because I love what I do. I do this with the purpose of trying to change the world little by little, hopefully, or in my own way. It doesn't have to be a grandiose way of that I'm going to be someone who speaks in TED Talks or whatever, but that's a dream, that's a goal, and maybe when we put it out there, it's going to happen one day, and we're going to make it there. Thank you. But it also just gives us this idea that we are we are vulnerable people, but we can survive it. This is a part where I used to go to church most of the time, and I've no all the time with my parents, my family, and I still try to be, but I'm not as religious as I was before. But there was one thing that I loved about the topics that they were saying at church, that God did not promise us a storm free life, but he promised us a storm proof life. And if you have a healthy sense of self, you also have a storm proof idea of who you are. Adversities will come, questioning yourself will come, but if you have a strong sense of self, this will just fall off your shoulders. Like it's gonna be like water off a duck's back, and it's not gonna bother you so much because you know who you are, you know where you stand. So that is the importance of a healthy sense of self. Another health idea or the importance of healthy sense of self is that you're able to set boundaries for people, for things, and for your priorities that actually break and damage your inner peace. So here's one thing. If you're sure of yourself and the people that you surround yourself with, they wouldn't be people who would be destroying your inner peace. They wouldn't be people who would make you judge yourself harder. They wouldn't be people who would drag you down because of your achievements and what you can't do and what you can do. But these people will support you and will understand you when you fall down and try to help pick you up. They're not going to kick you when you're down. They're not going to hurt you when you're already hurting, but you are able to set healthy boundaries on all of your relationships when you have a healthy sense of yourself. You wouldn't feel like, for example, if you have a group of friends and they've been inviting you for a night out, but you have your priorities straight and you say no, then you would fear that they would not be friends with you anymore, or they would feel upset because you declined their invitation for the nth time because you have something to focus on. If they get upset and they use that against you, they're not really someone that you want to be with for a while, because they're just going to make you feel bad for not being able to live up to the expectations of their expectations of you. But if you have a healthy sense of self and your friends and you surround yourself with people who support you genuinely, this part, they would understand that you've chosen your priorities over them first. And you would also be able to say no to people who gets the energy from you all the time, because you also have your responsibilities to focus on, and people who understand you, people who you surround yourself with that understands you perfectly and genuinely and loves you and supports you, they would understand that this is something that you're working on. And if they also are the ones in that part of declining invitations, you would understand them too, because you guys were working on something for your own self and your life and everything that you want to focus on. So you get to say no to the things that take away your inner peace if you have a healthy sense of self. But if you don't, you'll be easily coerced into things that you're doing, things that you don't want to do. If you always want to please people just because, I don't know, it's a part of you, and it's okay. I guess pleasing people is part of everybody's agenda. But if you always want to please people around you, and, in response or in lieu, I can't find the word, but if it's, gonna damage your inner peace or gonna damage your inner sense of self, then that's the time you step your foot down and say no. If you don't have a healthy sense of self, that would be harder for you, because you just fall into that pit hole of feeling pity and sorrowful about it and just anxious that they won't like you back anymore. So it helps us determine the destructive things and habits that we have and how to steer away from them. So if you also don't have a healthy sense of self, you would always fall into a spiral of bad things. You'll be having yourself in a situation where you drink every night without limits. You forget your responsibilities. You forget that you're a person that also needs rest, because you just always want to say yes to people around you. You always just want to go out and please people. So if you don't have a healthy sense of self, that's going to be something that you're going to struggle with. It's also important to have a healthy sense of self, because it opens our minds and hearts to the change that we need to undergo. So if you are secure with how you see yourself, putting yourself in a not a pedestal, but actually just seeing yourself for what you are and who you are, understanding that you are worth the love and effort and everything that you have now, it's that it gives you a chance to be open to criticisms, open to the idea that you are not a perfect person, and then you're gonna have mistakes, you're gonna have shortcomings where people are gonna call you out on that, and then you'd be open because you have a healthy sense of self. You know who you are, you know your mistakes, and you know your weakness and your strengths. So when people notice what's wrong with you, and like when people notice what are the harmful things that you do or you've done in front of them, destructive things that you do for yourself and for the people around you, you'd be able to accept this openly. You'd be able to recognize where you have to make improvements, because as humans we make mistakes and we grow from it. We make mistakes and we learn from it. That's one thing that you should keep in mind, that if you have a healthy sense of self, you would not be easily offended by the things that people would notice about you. And when they say that they don't like this part of you, they don't like this idea of you, it's okay. You can accept it and say, well, maybe you're right. And if they're wrong, you can just say, well, I'm sorry, that's who I am. And if you can't take it, you either can choose not to be so close with me anymore, or you can just choose to walk away. You wouldn't hold on to something toxic anymore. But at least you're open to the ideas of understanding your own shortcomings and mistakes. So see how it all collides into that idea that if you have a healthy sense of self, you're able to have a strong idea of where you want to be, who you want to be, and your purpose in your life. You get to say no to the things that harm you. You get to say no to the destructive habits and notice them and just tweak them now. And you're openly able to accept people telling you the things that you have to work on and improve on. This is something that I do for a living. No, this is something that I do as a job. I We use this term of area that needs improvement. It doesn't. It's not areas that you're bad at, areas that you're like this. It's more of just telling you that there's something that you have to work on, and I hope you're open to doing that. So I do that with my kids. We tell them what the kids can do well. So if you know what you can do well, and then areas that need improvement is the things that you know that you're weak at, and when people notice it and they tell you something about that, you're not going to be offended because you know that yes, this is something that I have to work on. And we have a third part where our interests in. So that when you know what you want to do, when you know what your life is like, what your purpose is in life is, what you feel like what your purpose in life is right now. A lot of people worry, a lot of people like me, millennials, who worry about their future, who look so much far ahead and think that, oh, I don't think I'm doing it well, I don't think I'm doing it right, and I don't think my life is in the right path. We often do that because we don't have an idea of what we want to be in the future yet. And it's not wrong, it's not bad, but maybe you have to take time to figure yourself out more and what you want to be, and block out all these noises that tell you that you're not supposed to be this, you're not supposed to be that, you're not supposed to be, you're not. It tells you who you're supposed to be. But let's get back down to business. You are the one who writes your own book. You are the sun. You are someone who makes your own life and makes your own stories. So if you don't want to like listen to what people tell you and like the limitations that they put on you, you can always just exceed those limitations and break those stereotypes, break those barriers that people put on you. But again, always in human limitations. Be who you are in human limitations. What I mean by that is like with goodness and kindness, and generally accepted that you you are kind. You are not gonna ruin people for your own sake. It's kind of like being selfless and selfish at the same time. It's a healthy division between that. But it allows us to be open. It allows us to see ourselves as works in progress. And this is one thing. Having that strong sense of self will allow you to pinpoint what you want to be in your life at some point. For me right now, I know what I want to be. I want to be a teacher. And I think right now what's important is I'm working on that goal for the next 5 years, short term goals. And that's where I'm going to be for now. And I think I am good with where I am now because I'm learning, because I'm growing, and because I love what I do. And maybe, who knows, after that 5 years, I realize that I want to be something more, I want to be something else. And then I do it again. You take your life step by step at a time. I know you like to look at the big picture. Look at it, see where you want to be, see where you want to go. Put a pin on that, put a mark on that. That's where you want to be. And then just enjoy the journey, enjoy the ropes and the mountain that you're climbing, because you're going to get there. You are going to get to the top. Sometimes it's going to just go down and up. You're going to have a turbulent ride ahead, but you're going to get there as long as you align all the things that you do now. So, why does having a healthy sense of self help you in that? It's because you know what you want to be at this very moment in time. And if you know who you are, you're not questioning what you want to be and who you are, and why you don't stand up to the expectations of other people. And you don't just fit into that box that people are putting you in there, but you are making your own box, making it bigger, smaller, whatever you want it to be, but you are creating your own life. Then I would just want to say that you are the director of your own life. I've been telling you all about that. With a healthy sense of self, you will not easily be faced and wavering towards like the things that people say to you. You will not falter when people hate on your work. You will not falter when people judge you for what you do. You will not falter when people trample on your beliefs, your traits, your personality, your culture, or whatever, because you know where you stand in this world. You know for a fact that you live and walk in this world, and that you matter because you do. And with a healthy sense of self, you know in the near future, you're still going to be who you are right now. You are going to grow. You're going to understand that some things that you know now may not be true by then, but you're still going to be okay with it because you're going to have a healthy sense of self. You're going to accept that you have to learn all these things. So take the reins on your own life. Silence the voices that tell you otherwise. That's something I've been telling you all about now. And you get to choose how you live your life. You do you. This is where people say, you do you. You do what you want to do. You be who you want to be. As long as it's not going to hurt anybody. As long as it's the thing that makes you happy but does not take away happiness and inner peace from other people. Well, I don't see any nothing wrong about that. So yeah, I'm just being so passionate about this. This feels so great to talk about. I just want to say a little thing about how my day went today. My day has been going crazy today, and I've been having a mental breakdown because I have a lot of things to do. I have a lot of things to catch up on, and then this happens. I had my card, no, no, I have my online account locked, and I've been needing to call it, and it's been crazy because I can't access it because the phone number that I put was wrong, and I've been requesting to change that. It wasn't happening at all. So, yeah, I was just having a mental breakdown and feeling, and doing this episode makes me feel so good because I muddled through it. I pushed through it. I just want to say thank you for, you know, listening through all this banters and ideas that I have in my mind. I've been so appreciative of the efforts, and I've been receiving a lot of good comments about this podcast. I just want to say thank you to the people that listen to me. I feel seen and heard, and just know that I hear and I see you guys. I always feel so great when people message me about it. I just be like, oh, thank you so much for that kind words, and you know, it's just sometimes I still question it too, but with all what you do, I always go back to why I'm doing this. And sometimes the more I just go push through it, the more that people realize that what I'm doing is really just good. It's really just something that comes from my heart, and I'm appreciative of all those good words. So yeah, that's another lesson that I've been learning right now, that external validation, yeah, does feel good, but it doesn't really dictate of how you're doing great on all things. This is subjective. This podcast is subjective. But I just want to say thank you to all of you who has been listening to me. Before we all get to the next parts of this episode, let's have a commercial.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
Okay, welcome back to Love, Growth, and Freedom. So, I'm going to give you at least 8 tips that I got from an online source. It's an article of 8 powerful tips to boost your sense of self by Stephanie Taylor. It has 8 steps, okay? It has 8 things that I'm going to tell you. I don't memorize it, so I'm just going to go have my notes in it. So, one is learn how to set healthy boundaries. So, if you have a healthy sense of self, and if you're still working on it, you can practice by saying no. You can practice by saying no to the things that harm you, your inner peace, that harm your integrity and everything. And it slowly builds your self-esteem and confidence when you get to say no to the things that doesn't really is not your priority as of the moment. When you get to say no to those things, and when you get to put your foot down on things that matter to you most, you get a sense of that, wait, I get to control things that I could control. So this is one of them. Healthy boundaries. Set them properly. 2, practice saying no. Practicing how to say no is difficult because you'd always want to say yes on things when people invite you to parties, when people invite you to social gatherings, and when you feel like you want to help out. But sometimes it's important to say no when it's damaging your inner peace, when it's taking so much of your energy. It's okay to say no. Helps keep us this saying no helps us keep track of the things that we prioritize to. If you say no to this thing, then you know why you said no to that, because you need to do your job, you need to do your responsibility. You can't party yet, but when you're done, you can choose to party. Go ahead, nobody's gonna stop you. Next, practice self affirmation and positive self talk. I've been telling you guys all about this. When you start your day, it's important that you look yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. It's hard to do because it's crazy. It seems crazy, but it's gonna make you feel so much better about yourself. And then you can practice saying these words: I am amazing. I am great. I am wonderful. I am worthy. I am me. It makes you feel good because you get to see that, yes, I may be ugly at some points in life. I may not be the greatest. I may not be the smartest. I may not be the most fit person in this world, but I love myself. I am worthy. I am enough. And you know that you're worthy. Your self-worth is from within, and you're going to develop this confidence that you can take on whatever is going on to or whatever is going to be happening in your day. Travel as a means of self-discovery. This is a thing that I would say I've done countless of solo travels already, and I've been happy that I've done it. It gives me a sense of peace and serenity when I travel a city alone or when I go to a city alone, um, a vacation spot alone, because I get to be with my own thoughts. I get to listen to the music that I like. I get to sing while I'm driving, or I get to be in a place where nobody knows me and I can just be anyone who I want to be. And it's just so good because I get to discover parts of myself that I don't know when I'm within the comfort zone that I know, within my people, within my friends, where I belong in, where I fit in, or where I actually just feel comfortable and happy and safe. It expands your mind, expands your horizons, it gets you to meet new people, fresh perspectives along the way. And you'd realize that there are, as much as the world is cruel, there's also so much kindness around the world. Do physical exercises that are right for you. Um, exercise is not reminding people to exercise is not fat shaming. I'm not telling anyone to be like, you have to be thin or whatever. But I think finding the right exercise or finding that right physical activity for you as a person is also good because in my experience as a kid growing up, I've been very athletic, but the most beneficial effects of these workouts and these being physically active on a lot of things, it gives me an outlet to let my frustrations out, let my things and my ideas just flow. Like if I feel frustrated, I remember swimming, and just when I feel sad, I remember swimming. And when I broke up with my ex, I also did Muay Thai, and I felt really good, releasing my inner frustrations there. When I was in college, I go to pep squad trainings. I was a cheerleader. I do cheer, and my day would just feel like if I had a bad day when I'm in training, everything just falls off, and you're like, okay, let's get this done. I'm focused on what I can do now. And it builds me up because when you are capable of doing the things that you want to do, you become more confident in it. You allow yourself to grow and manage that self esteem. It develops a habit of keeping healthy. It's also healthy, obviously, to exercise. Cardiovascular health is also important when you do exercise, and it becomes an outlet for emotions. And for me, one of the best things I like about doing physical activity, especially in groups and in classes, it brings you to a community that has commonalities in wanting to do the same thing or doing the same physical work. You get to have friends, you get to develop a connection outside of your comfort zone, technically outside of your comfort zone, but still somewhere that seems familiar to you. Six, increase self awareness and decrease comparison. So, increasing self awareness, the practice of increasing self awareness is trying to talk to yourself, sitting with your own thoughts, meditating, and seeing how you feel about certain things. And when things pop up into your head, negative emotions, you have to question all these. Why is this happening? Why is this going on in my head? And when you practice that, you get to have a you know, stronger sense of self because you're aware of how your self is going. You're self aware that you might be making mistakes in this one, you might be doing better at this now, and that's great. And you've seen like your progress from then and now. And decrease your comparison. Again, we've been talking about stopping ourselves to compare what that person has to what you have because all of us have different things and opportunities and mindsets. Seven is practice self care. um, know when to take breaks. So maybe I should put that in my mind now because I've been having such a busy week and my mind's just exploding. But I feel like I need to do this. And now, maybe this weekend or maybe tomorrow, I'll take the time to just, quiet down and wind down because I've been doing a lot of things. And eighth is a recommendation. You could try therapy to know where your self esteem is having troubles with and how you could work on yourself and how you could practice more of self awareness. And we end on that, we end on that idea that we have a lot of things that we could work on, and these are eight tips that you could think about and work on when you want to practice and develop a healthier sense of self. And I hope this helps. I hope that this is something that you'd like to practice and try. And another tip that I would always say this: you journal your feelings. And if you don't want to journal it, maybe type it down on your notes or text it to yourself. Two things that I've learned from AJ and the Queen. This is from AJ and the Queen. This is, um, this is where RuPaul, or yeah, the Queen RuPaul, said that to AJ, the kid that he's with or she's with, they were talking about like the best parts of their day and their least favorite. And then it works when you write it down because you get to note down, oh, okay. And then when you realize it, when you keep writing it down and you come back to it, you'll realize, oh, this day was a little, iffy, but it didn't turn out so bad. The next day, you'll see that there was progress into it. There was something different. You grew from that experience. And it feels so much better. Having a healthy sense of self gives us the chance to take the power back. A chance to live a life we choose without sacrificing and compromising our values. So if you have a healthy sense of self, you go for it, girl. You go for it. Fight for it. This is for you. Own it. And, it makes us understand our own versions of happiness without impending on somebody else's idea of happiness and a successful life. Again, I've been telling you to not impede on somebody else's life. And like your version of happiness is different for somebody else's version of happiness. So we all better respect that. So with all that, I'd like to thank everyone for reaching this podcast or reaching the end of this podcast. Thank you so much. I am very grateful. Again, if you want to listen to my podcast, you can stop by at Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, YouTube, guerrillapodcastsyndicate.com.ph to hear more of my episodes. And this is me again, Adrian Duarte of Love, Growth, and Freedom, signing off. Thank you so much and have a great day.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or via RSS. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And if you want to know more, check out www.guerrillapodcast.com.au or guerrillapodcast.com.ph. A Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate production.